How about now, Evan?
Yes. Very good.
Sorry. I had to go out and come back in. Sorry.
Okay. That's all
I
right.
don't know what happened.
So we have verified a quorum. And are there, I don't believe there's any items from executive session that require any motions.
Correct.
So we're good there. We're going to move on to ratifying the electronic vote that was made on January 29th to approve the Board of Director meeting minutes from January.
Motion to approve.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. Okay. Don't have any other guests in the waiting room currently. We're going to move on to owner visitor forum. Lee, your number?
469-767-4080.
Okay. We'll give this a couple minutes. I do feel like I'm on the Brady Bunch when we're doing Zoom calls like this.
Something I always wonder is if we're in the same.
We're not. I don't think so. I think it's different for each person.
Evan, me, Bruce, and Lisa on the front row. Is that everybody?
On mine, I have Bruce, Evan, Lizzie, Lee, Karen, Randy, Chip, and then our guests.
Touching Randy's head, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, Randy.
Okay, Bruce.
No, that's Lizzie on my screen.
It's me on my screen.
There's Lee right there.
So I think we've just confirmed that they are not the same.
No, after all the Zoom calls over the last year, now I know.
Right. Well, I'm in the same spot, but Lee, you moved up a row, and so did Randy, and so did Karen.
And it's all changing now because Jenny is also joining us.
Right.
Now I'm in the center. I'm looking down
It's regular meeting.
at Karen.
Huh?
I'm looking down at Karen.
I'm next to you on the other side on my screen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's
Fun
you.
times. Oh, okay. Cool.
No one has text. No questions yet.
Okay. We have 3 guests.
If they need to speak, they need to hit the button so that we know that they're going to raise their hand so that if
Yeah,
you have
sometimes
something
it's
to
hard to
say.
find people to push that. So sometimes if they want to text me, we let them do that too. So
Ryan from TYC just texted us, so he was having an issue on getting in, so I resent him the link. All right. Anything, Lee?
no.
Okay. Then I guess we will move into the report section of the meeting. 1 second. Okay. So I want to start with talking about last week. I think we'd be remiss not to bring it up. Major historic winter storm, lots of damage in the neighborhood. At the same time, I was very, very pleased to hear many stories around our streets, and I'm sure others, of where neighbors were definitely helping neighbors. If I recall, I don't think anyone on the board left. Everyone stayed. And so like that kind of leadership as well. Our house got really, really cold. Thankfully, no pipes broke. But about 25% of the houses in and around the streets that I live on had their pipes break. And it was great to see David Trotter on the street fixing nearly all of them. So that was good. You know, last week also brings up something we've discussed before, the Emergency Management Council that I kind of discussed or brought to you guys. And I think that we need to move over the rest of this year. I think the plan is that we will move closer towards making that a reality, as well as the point of that being walking through all sorts of different weather-related scenarios, etc., so that we can make sure that we have plans in place for these kinds of things. Now, clearly, even though Chip got in trouble for it from one resident, the board, the HOA has no control over the electricity. So that's, not something that we can control. When billion-dollar companies go down, we can't do anything with that. But that said, there are other ways that we can be there to help. But it's also a good reminder that the board and HOA staff, like, we also have our own families, and in the midst of that kind of crisis that's affecting lots of people, it's also affecting individual board members as well. So we need to be good neighbors across the board. And did you get?
Is there someone come in?
Do what?
Is there someone waiting in the waiting room?
I didn't see that. Thank you.
Brian's waiting in the waiting room.
Got it.
Evan, that's something, the emergency management thing is something that you and I have talked about, because
Yes.
there's several, like Mike was on that commission and stuff with the city.
Yep.
So we can put that together if you want to.
Yeah, it's something that needs to be done. I would like to see, we have a lot of law enforcement, etc. It would be good. A really, really extreme example that I hope never has to be worked out. But if there was ever like an active shooter type thing in our neighborhood, right, because of the way that our neighborhood is, and as we saw last year with the one guy that was kind of running all over the place, and there were helicopters trying to find him, etc. We are not a city. We're not a municipality. There is definitely some expectations out there that are unrealistic as to what an HOA can do in those kinds of situations. That said, we can still do our best to prepare and plan. A lot of that does hinge on our residents using Town Square. As a quick reminder, one of the big reasons we went with Town Square was that it has the ability to be an app on the phone, and therefore for notifications to get pushed to it. And so if there was ever an emergency situation, we can push those notifications literally to everyone's phone in an instant. Whereas even something like Nextdoor, there's an algorithm there on whether it shows up in front of your feed or not. So Town Square is our official communication, and we need to utilize it. I'll even say this: it has the ability to streamline and handle gate access, as far as residents being able to make appointments on the app for a contractor or friends or whatever that are coming over, and then they get to the guest gate, they show their QR code that they get on that, and it gets scanned, and then that gets access into the neighborhood. So there's some potentials there that we could even use it for more than what we're currently using it for. But definitely one of the main reasons that we went with this software was because it gives us the ability to push those emergency notifications out. So need to get more people on it. There's around 870 users, and obviously there's more than that in the neighborhood, because you don't just get one per resident. Anybody can add their family, etc., onto it. So anyways, we'll come back to that, but I think that all needs to get folded in with the Emergency Management Council. And in coming months, I strongly want to move towards having some conversations just at a board level of different scenarios, and how do we handle that, and how can we be better prepared. I say all of that not to say that there was a failure, because I really don't think that, the HOA failed in this last week. I really don't. It was a unique, very, very unique experience. And I think that what we saw was the power of neighbors helping neighbors. And we're those neighbors just like everybody else. So I'm pleased. but we can even work to make it better. It's kind of where I'm going with that. We get a lot of questions. Everyone's on different sides of COVID, but we get a lot of questions on when are we going to return to live meetings. With the ramp up at the end of last year, we felt like it was wise in the safety for not just board members, but also residents to move back to full Zoom meetings. That said, we are working on a plan that hopefully we can execute this next month. The ballroom creates a problem from an audio standpoint, and so it can be resolved, but it requires a fairly significant audio setup. And what we're trying to do is keep this as simple as possible, not have to pay for people to rent out equipment, etc. We can make it into a bigger production, but it's even better if we can have it functioning as simple as possible with an iPhone or whatever. And I believe staff is going to end up taking over that, so that board members, myself and others, don't have to be the ones running the tech and also being in the meeting. It's a challenge, to say the least. So it's likely that next month we will be either in the fitness room down at the club or the lounge. I believe the audio will be better because it won't be as big of a space, and it will still give us the ability to socially distance. So that's the plan right now, and hopefully we can execute that this next month. I do miss the live meetings, so it would be good to be in person on those things. Let's see here. Spring garage sales coming up. I believe that's going to be April 10th with a rain out date of April 24th. A lot of those dates are going to get loaded into Town Square under the event section in the next couple of weeks, as we're getting all of the events committee calendar dates and other things plugged in for all of 2021. So be looking for that, but that will be April. Street signs should be finishing up in the next, I would say, 2 weeks. Chip, do you think that's a fair assessment?
Yes, we got a little sidetracked with the weather.
Yeah.
All the streets that intersect with Yacht Club Drive have the signs installed, which just some of the other streets that on the north, I think there's about 12 signs left to install, post, etc., stop signs, and some other. It's less than maybe 15. It's right in that neighborhood, but they're all on streets that are not intersecting with the Yacht Club.
Other than the entrance, we're gonna
right.
Just so everyone knows, it's in the meeting. We're going to be putting a directional sign across from the main gate entrance and across from the north gate entrance that will say Yacht Club and show arrows going that way, just to help people on that side of things.
And about half of the signs that are left installed require dig tests because they're in locations that we're moving some. Half of those are getting moved to a different location to make it more user friendly, I guess. And okay. So these are on some of the little cul-de-sacs, like off of Ranger and places like that, where we're doing a little bit different to make it easier to see. So awesome. Chuck's, I think, waiting on about 50% of the dig tests still haven't been performed yet. So most of this is weather related delays.
Yeah, I think he actually had them scheduled for that week.
Right.
They couldn't find it in the snow or something. I don't know. It's weird.
Right.
Last thing on my report, just an interesting real estate aspect that Virginia and I have been seeing. Things in Chandler's have really turned a corner over the last several years, and it's above and beyond what our surrounding the other communities surrounding us are doing. What we're seeing right now is roughly $5 on the low end to $15 a square foot higher for homes in Chandler's. And so I think a lot of that, based upon what I've heard at from people, feedback that they've given at the open houses, the community open house side of things, we're hearing more and more that people are specifically coming to Chandler's, not just Rockwall and kind of looking at neighborhoods, but specifically coming to Chandler's. And even many of those have recounted that they saw what it looked like to live here during kind of the throes of COVID this last year, and really liked a lot of the opportunities that we have from a walking, getting outside standpoint, our amenities, as well as the concerts, and even being able to socially distance those. So very, very grateful for where we live, very pleased to see that. And I feel like we're doing our job right if we're seeing an increase in Chandler's property values even above kind of market norms, which the market in and of itself is nuts right now too. So, but we're getting a little bit of a bump even over that. So that is it for me. And that means we will move on to Bruce for the Treasury report.
Okay. You all have a copy of what I'm about to say in your board packet, but the revenue for January was $155,000 and change. The expenses were $175,000 and change. So we recorded a loss technically of $20,000 and change for the month. But for some perspective on that, we borrowed $50,800 for Yacht Club renovation expenses from our reserves. And when we get a couple details worked out on our B1 bank loan, we will repay that. So we will wind up with a $30,000 surplus after that loan is repaid. So
Good.
I think you could take that. If we don't have a good month in the books right now, we'll have a good month shortly.
Okay. Awesome.
That's it.
Okay, very good. Then we will move over T for the management report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So again, I know last week was challenging and we didn't have phones, but we were able to transfer those phones to my cell phone and was able to handle it. Not what in the best scenarios, but happy to have done that. So kind of looking forward to the HOA, I just wanted to make a mention that the office is open. We suggest appointments and we're closely watching any changes in state guidelines. I know the board is presently or upcoming going to go through a review of policies because we're looking into 2021 and as mentioned previously, the events committee, pool policies, park policies, etc. Next week, we do have an EC meeting on Wednesday night at 6:30. That will be head up by the EC committee with Carrie Cunningham assisting. We will have Mo letters out next week. So the Mo program will begin in April and that runs through October for lots, vacant lots in the community. As Evan mentioned, I would watch Town Square for an update this week of events calendar, HOA relevant news, and upcoming events. Even looking so far as to National Night Out, we did receive communication. So hopefully that will go forward this year. In the office, we're presently wanting to move forward with training for communications software. That will be the responsibility of Kristen Hartani. Last Friday or yesterday Friday, I did have a meeting with Ryan Patek with TYC, presently working with him to streamline some policies and standards of SOPs. Because I do the accounting for Ryan, and I know Ryan's been working really hard at the Yacht Club. And then I just wanted to put a kind of a thumbs up to maintenance. Maintenance, we are going through an assessment, damage assessment. We were fortunate enough to not experience too many issues with property, common property, Chandler's Landing. but I just want a thumbs up to maintenance for the repairs that they were able to do, both at the small pool bathrooms and all that they did throughout the community. So basically right now, financials will be posted on Monday, and that's pretty much all I have on my plate, other than we did have audit this week. So the audit process has begun, field work's begun, and hoping to have that complete by the end of March.
I really appreciate the audit happening early on every year. So thank you for making that positive change.
Oh, yeah, and thank them also.
Yep,
So.
absolutely. Okay, Chip, over to you for security and TYC update on projects.
Okay, so I think most everyone knows Kristen Hartani, who was our site supervisor for Allied, transitioned over to work full-time for CLCA. This transition actually took place back in mid-January. Allied has been working to identify her replacement, which they have hired a gentleman by the name of Joe Parker. We haven't met him yet. He's going through all of his onboarding at Allied. I would anticipate to see him sometime this week. I do want to give a big shout out to Kristen and all of the Allied staff over the last week, really stepping up. Kristen helped out just kind of periphery behind the scenes on some issues with the weather. We had some challenging times in the main guardhouse of no power, no phones, no anything. Very cold in there. The team stuck it out. Big thanks to Chuck. We do have a small temporary portable generator. We were able to get some lights on and a little bit of heat. But they actually persevered over the course of the week with that. It's just another item on the list of some changes we need to make for a once-in-a-generation event, but we do need to address some issues there. We have all the gates back open and operating. We shut down for safety reasons the north gates. I know it's an inconvenience, but it wasn't safe with the amount of ice and snow to have those gates open. We're working through from a security standpoint with contractors. We relaxed some of the hours for emergency repairs for plumbers, electricians, and HVAC techs to come in pretty much whenever it's necessary for repairs. We will be, I guess, moving on to, I know we're looking forward to getting Joe in here. So once we get him on board, we'll introduce him to the community. Moving on to the Yacht Club, couple of updates there. Fortunately, we had the foresight on the Monday after the weekend when it got cold and electricity went out. We were one of the first buildings in Rockwall that asked for permission to drain the fire suppression system, which was a good move on our part to get that done early on. It saved us compared to other buildings in Rockwall tons of damage. So we didn't have any interior issues with the what's called the wet system, the dry system outside. We did have we've had about 3 breaks in that. Most of those, there's one repair that hasn't been made. It's been capped. The system is all back in service. The wet system and most of the dry system, which is outside, is back in service. That was happened yesterday. We've been in constant communication with the Rockwall Fire Department on that. So they're pleased with that. Everybody's asking about the elevator. So after 3 weeks of waiting for AT&T to put in a plain old POTS phone line. That's what we need. I met the technician out there on Monday. Got all that lined out. As it turns out, there's a break in the main cable that feeds the pedestal that feeds the building. And so until AT&T gets a line crew out here to make those repairs, we can't put in the phone line, and Schindler will not come now until the phone line's in. So we're just at the mercy of AT&T. The handicap parking, that's been, the city came back and asked us to make some additional modifications to where the concrete will butt up against the asphalt. They want a footer installed there, so there's some additional dirt work that needs to be done. I'm anticipating now that most of that's dried up. We'll get that poured in the next, probably in the next week to 10 days. So that's on tap. We will make the repairs to the dry system, which is all those sprinkler pipes that are outside at the Yacht Club. There's, like I said, there's a couple of repairs there that need to be made, so we'll get that done. I don't have it moving back to the elevator. I just don't have an exact date. I can't get that till I know the phone line's in. I've got everybody lined up to do their piece of that so that we can get on Schindler's list to get out here. Once they make the adjustments, then we'll be able to coordinate with the state elevator inspector and the city of Rockwall. Those two inspections will be done concurrently. There's some testing that will have to be done at that time. So hopefully we can get that wrapped up, but I'm just not willing to commit to a date on it. No, it's frustrating. We need to get it finished. But we're at the mercy of outside forces right now. And I think that's it.
Wedding site grass.
Yeah, that's right. So outside the wedding site, or the sod has been installed on that. We have our new pump for pumping water out of Lake Ray Hubbard has been installed and is working. So we'll be able to do some irrigation on, obviously on the new sod, but then in other parts around the Yacht Club. So RTS has made repairs to a number of the sprinkler valves, located them, made repairs to them. So that I think we're all looking forward to getting that wrapped up. There's some additional concrete work that will be done down on the wedding site, and some cleanup that needs to happen on the utility room doors on the back, some fencing. So those will just get scheduled here over the next month or so. I don't want to steal Ryan's thunder, but I know he's got some weddings coming up, so that's high priority for us to get that taken care of. Thanks for reminding me on that, Kevin.
Yep. I'll also share this because I don't know that our guests would have heard this yet. The marina approached, or the marina and TYC have been having a good conversation, working together and looking towards how they can work together in the future. And one of the things that was also brought up was that how good that fencing around the wedding site turned out. And apparently it caught the eye of the marina, and they're looking at possibly having that same exact fencing contractor install that directly in front of the wedding site at the water. Because if you've been down there, you'll notice that the rope to keep you from going in the water has suffered some damage over the last little bit. So that would be a really nice thing to tie in, even though we don't own that property. But then they even went as far as say they'd like to start there, but then actually carry it all the way down the waterfront. That's a sharp looking fence, and it'll be a good look for our community. as well. So, all right. Social media is on here. What I would say with that is we're moving. There's a number of jobs in the past that have fallen to board members. And what we're doing right now is we're moving much of that back to paid staff where it should be. And so social media is no different. That really is something that should be run not by an individual board member, especially with the turnover that happens on the board, but by paid staff. And so Karen is over the communication committee. They're getting together here in the next week or so, and gonna ramp that aspect of it up. We're hoping that through this year, we'll actually have the ability to have a couple print newsletters up at the HOA office and the security guardhouse, as well as just pushing more content out through that. Once events kind of get underway, that's gonna provide a lot of content as well. But we'd like to even, from what I recall, the conversation being, we'd like to even have a little bit of a throwback to the main sheet of the past that was in our community that covered a lot of different aspects of like who's this employee and what's been going on in this corner Chandler's, etc. So that's in process, being moved back to staff and back to the communication committee so that can be properly handled. So that's going on. And I will take just one more time on the social media side of things. In situations like this last week, the reminder is that Town Square is the official communication, not Facebook. That's really a public facing, almost marketing aspect of what's going on in our neighborhood. And it's been working because there's a lot of people that have seen that. But that's not a place where we can guarantee, because of how the algorithms work and who sees it, we can't guarantee that everyone in our neighborhood sees it. And it absolutely goes out to people outside of our neighborhood. And so that is not a direct communication to our neighbors. Next door is not that either. And the Chandler's Landing is not able to have a official channel on next door. And so in situations like this last week, Town Square is the communication method. And so we need to remember that, and we need to tell our neighbors, and need to make sure that we can get everyone on for that side of things. So I will leave that there.
And Evan, with the communication, we're looking at doing the newsletter and putting it, like you said, putting hard copies at the office or at the security, but we will also have the online version for people on Town Square that will go on and look at it.
Yep.
So
like
they'll have
PDF.
3 ways, right? They'll have 3 ways of getting that newsletter.
And some of those things that would go in the newsletter, like I'll call it articles or whatever, those are things that absolutely can go onto the Facebook page because that's front-facing marketing, and it tells the story. But I was just making a distinction for direct communication to the neighborhood. Always going to rely on Town Square on that.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for taking that, and looking forward to seeing some good stuff from it. All right. Moving over to Ryan for the Yacht Club update.
Awesome. Thank you, Evan. Good morning, everybody. As always, thank you for the support of the club, and excited to be in 2021. And I hope everybody from last week is okay. I know there was some significant damage in the neighborhood. So our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone that was impacted, and hopefully we never experience a event like that in our lifetime again. So
exactly.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go over some high level things from the club for January. Before I get into January, we're already almost into March. So February's numbers are looking really good. So a pretty exciting start from a revenue front for the year. We'll normalize some costs and some savings in February because we were a little bit out of whack in January, and I'll kind of get into the why here. Top line revenue, we did 65,563 on a plan of 64,546. So we did hit our first revenue plan since opening in late October. So that was really exciting. Keep in mind, this was predominantly 95% just walk-in a la carte. Events were a little soft in January, but have since really ramped up in February. So pretty proud that we're able to hit plan off just the pure walk-in business. Food and beverage COGS were 25,020 on a plan of 23,811. So food COGS were a little high at 39%. Beverage COGS were at 26.5%, which is pretty in line. You know, we're figuring out the menu and going to make some adjustments. You know, we're about 2.5 points over plan on the food side, but pretty close to plan on the overall food and beverage side, thanks to beverage COGS. So Chef Hillary and I will be looking at the menu over these next 2 to 3 weeks and just start really seeing what makes sense to keep on the menu, looking at portion controls, plating. You know, we're in a spot now where we have some really good data about 100 days worth. We can pivot from that and start making smarter decisions on what we put on the menu, you know, things that sell and things that are popular and easy to execute. Total payroll and taxes were 37,218 on a plan of 45,283. So still continuing to save on the labor front, even when we're hitting revenue. You know, the big thing here is just working on aces and places and staffing for volume and having them in at the right time. With events starting to have a nice uptick and getting a lot of business in the pipeline, we're seeing a big need to really start driving banquet servers and top grading our current talent, just to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward there. The expense line has got a little bit out of whack, and I want to speak to it a little bit. You know, we're on about a $36,000 expense line on a budget of 16, and a big part of that, you know, we had some utility bill concerns that are going to normalize in February. On the controllable side, we did have some equipment issues in the kitchen. We had to replace 3 prep tables that basically are. Those were, I mean, detrimental to the fact that we didn't have those. We did not have new prep tables in the equipment package when we reopened. Those were really necessary to be able to be efficient and still run the business properly and not have prep tables being held up on cinder blocks, because that's kind of where we were for a few weeks. The bar downstairs, you know, it was really kind of an unplanned bar to begin with. So just trying to get some small wares in there, you know, as far as bar tools, glassware, additional plateware down there for when people eat and dine down there, just basic supplies to get to that point. We're in a much better spot now really at that bar. And we've since also done some TV upgrades down there. So the bar is going to be in a really good spot down there in the SS Lounge. You know, the small wares is still a challenge for us. We're starting to really make a purchase as we book business now and take deposits when Danielle's booking events. But, you know, if you really back out the utility concerns, we're really more about 12,000 over. And then we had to spend just under 4,200 in some equipment repairs and replacements of the prep tables and smallware. So really put us about $5,000 over truly on the expense. Our linen expense was a little higher just because we're utilizing the ballroom for seating at the 50%. And then also when we run live music and any kind of brunch overflow. So overall, we were at a $32,000, $807 loss on a plan of a $20,000 loss. Again, we're going to make a lot of this up in February. Excited that we're, even despite being closed for virtually a full week, we're still forecasting to hit revenue by about $8,000 in the month of February with much better cost control. So excited to hit revenue, excited that we're hitting sales, we're getting a lot of traffic, programs are great. Now we can really tighten up on the day-to-day controllable expenses, equipment's in better shape, we're adding smallwares as we book business, so we'll be in a good spot. I do want to speak to events and activations for January. So we did launch steak night every Friday in January. We averaged just over 75 covers and just averaged over $3,500 in revenue for steak night. Put that in perspective, the Friday nights prior to that in December, November, we were averaging $2,600 in revenue. So a nice little jump there, and we've actually been able to acquire some non-resident activity through that. Brunch every Sunday has gone from $850 on average from the first week all the way up to averaging just over $1,800 on brunch on Sundays. Craft beer dinner, we hosted 30 for the event and drove $1,850 in revenue on a Wednesday, which is traditionally a slower revenue day for us. Started yoga, and we'll be continuing that again in March. Wind Down Wednesday, we've increased offerings there, and in the month of March, we'll be pairing that with some food specials. Live music on Saturdays, we hosted a band each Saturday night from 7 to 10. And drove an average just in the ballroom revenue alone of just under $3,000. So these have upticked our Saturdays closer to $6,000 because we're also getting business that drives down to the SS Lounge post live music, which is really good. And then just finish up with some review just to put things in perspective. So our True Review, which tracks Net Promoter Score in the month of January, was 78.9. And then our Resi, which tracks the reservation experience and also service experience, was a 4.55 out of 5. I don't remember the exact number, Evan, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Net Promoter Score pre-open when Kemper was doing the consulting was minus 26.
Negative 28.6, I believe is what it was.
So we're in a better spot. We're driving more surveys now through True Review. We're averaging about 45 reviews on Resi, and that's starting to go up as well because we're doing follow-up communication with guests that make reservations and asking about their experience and then encouraging them to fill out the survey. So we're getting true good constructive feedback. We still want to drive more activity through True Review to get Net Promoter Scores, but we're in a really good spot. We were a little bit higher in December, but we had less surveys. So naturally, the more surveys that come in, it's going to normalize. But we're in a really good spot. In February, we're sitting at 86.5 already, and that's with a hike in survey scores as well and survey results. So overall, we got a lot of really good momentum. We did hire a new sales manager in January, and she booked in the month of January. She secured just under $92,000 in business for 2021 and 2022. In February, she's already secured another $52,000 in business for 2021. So people are ready to spend some money. The social business is picking up. We're averaging about 35 leads a week just on inbound. So very excited about the spring and the summer. I think we'll be in a really good spot. So yeah, I feel very good about Q1 and beyond for the club.
Really appreciate that. And just to drive that point on the Net Promoter Score, that is essentially, will you tell other people about it in a good way or a bad way? And before, when we were in the negative, that's what it was. And so just being in the positive is huge, but being in the positive that much. As a reminder to our guests on the call, companies like Southwest Airlines are in the 70s, positive 70s on Net Promoter Score. Apple is in the 60s. And then Time Warner Cable and that kind of stuff is usually in the teens. And before we were in the negative, and now we are more in line with a user experience, you could say, of Apple or Southwest Airlines. So I'm pleased with that, and I appreciate all the work that you guys have been doing down there. Staff is super friendly. There's constant improvement going on, and I just really appreciate it. And the numbers that we're hearing from the event side of things is very, very exciting. I think it's going to be a great turnaround, and I think it's proof that the building needed what it needed, and we're going to keep moving forward on that. And remember, all of this is happening during a pandemic. All of this, Chip has talked to this before, had we, and Randy as well, had we done this later than when we did it, it would have been 30% more. So it is, we're in a good way, and we're going to come out of this very nicely for the community. So
I would just say if it were today, Randy would agree with this, the cost would be double if you start looking at material cost, construction material costs right now from when we first started. In some cases, the material we needed would be double the cost. So,
Well, and what's happened too, the duration of the project probably would have been another 30 or 40%. And now the supply line for all these fixtures, there are no supplies out there now.
right.
So many things come from overseas. The pandemic has affected so many manufacturers. I know that right now we're having so much trouble just getting plumbing fixtures, light fixtures, anything in the building industry that's needed. This thing could have easily taken another 5-6 months from what it took us.
good.
So everybody just understands.
Stars aligned.
Correct.
Very, very grateful. All right. So I think that concludes all of our reports. That will take us on to make sure I don't have anything on my phone. And Lee, that was awesome. Appreciate you putting your phone number up next to your name. Perfect. Very, very good. This will move into the second owner visitor forum. And I think we have a question.
We do. I think half of it was answered by Ryan, but this is from Linda Honeycutt. She'd like to know, of course, about the loss of the Yacht Club's operation, but Ryan answered that. And she wanted to know, is additional loan money coming from B1 Bank?
Yeah, we do have some additional funds coming. There's some details to be worked out, and these will be primarily invested in the community in terms of projects like pond work, gate improvement, tennis court retaining wall, road repairs, and replacement of reserves.
Okay.
And Ryan covered, as you mentioned, Lee, Ryan covered the loss for January for the club.
Okay. Awesome. Anybody else? Lee's number is 469-767-4080.
Or Evan, they can use the hand raise and Zoom, and
It can.
you'll
We've had moderate success with that
Right.
before, but I'm willing to do it.
I want to know how you find out, how do we get the survey so we can give you kudos for what you're doing?
So you're talking about the survey at the Yacht Club?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you get your check, the very first one that's itemized everything that was on your bill, not the signing one, but everything that is itemized, at the very bottom of that, there is a QR code. And if you open the camera on your phone and you just hover over that, it will prompt it to open up a web link that will take you directly to the survey. And I filled it out before because I was interested in kind of what the user experience was. It's a pretty short survey, asked some good questions, rating from 1 to 10, and in general probably takes no more than 1.5 minutes. But that's where it is.
Okay, great. And I want to also just thank you guys. You've just done a fabulous job. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, all of you. And I'm so glad that Yacht Club is doing so much better.
Yes.
Great.
Thank
Fantastic.
you.
Kudos to all of you.
you,
Thank you.
Jenny.
Danny.
All right, Lee.
Nothing yet.
Okay. As we do in these times, we wait to make sure that everyone, so there's no technological issues or whatever. We wait a little bit longer probably than we even should, but just to make sure that we cover all of that. Oh, it started raining. Fun.
While we're waiting, I just want to say that the Kids Crew cookie donation was a huge success. Yes, I see you over there. We're getting a lot of pictures of them. I do have a Facebook page for Chandler's Kids Crew, and I am posting the events and the pictures and things that are coming on that. We have delivered to the hospital, to both the big fire department number 1 and fire department number 2. We've also delivered to EMS. We delivered to the hospital, the emergency room, and the ICU department. We also have donated and delivered to some of our local residents that we know that are police and fire and nurses. So it's been really good, and the kids have written their notes and everything and then taken them to the fire departments or the police. And so we're going to keep pushing social projects for the kids, but fun projects for the kids. And just thanks everybody that donated. And it was a big success.
Absolutely. Thanks for heading that up. It was good. We got to take some of those donations to the downtown Rockwall Police Department, and that was really fun. And they were so kind. They're like, "Hey, you guys want to jump in the car?" So my kids loved it.
Yeah, I can't wait for their pictures. I need to add them to the.
I have all of those. I'll get them to you.
Okay.
Yeah, Karen, great job. And I have to say that's the first time I've ever bought Girl Scout cookies and didn't consume them.
So it's health conscious as well.
Yeah, Kim told me she bought 10 boxes and I hadn't seen one yet.
That's right.
Not that I need them, but I mean.
Well, they were on my table all set out. Every time Mike or Stace walked by, they were like, "Oh, can we have any of these?" I'm like, "Nope, nope, they're already marked out for everything." But yeah, we did it. We had a lot, and it really was, was positive because I don't know if I've said it or not, but the little girl whose line we used has lost her grandparent, her grandmother, her grandfather, and her aunt were all in the hospital at the same time with COVID. The grandmother and the aunt got better, the grandfather didn't. And so it was something that she really had a heart for. And so we thought, all right, we'll take care of that. And she wanted to make sure that the majority of the cookies that she sold to people were cookies going for first responders or last responders too.
It's awesome. Thank you.
Please. And then just a couple side notes. The fireworks committee is meeting at noon down at the Yacht Club to just go over the events calendar for 2021. I think some people know that they were shut out on from the city of Dallas from issuing any permits due to COVID for the fireworks display they wanted to do on Valentine's Saturday. So those are still stored and they'll be using them for the Yacht Club going into 2021. And on another side note, Kim and Glenn Huron with Allie Odom and Josh Odom, they do have the bench in place now. They're putting it together this weekend. We had already approved the bench to be put down at the park in October. This is to honor baby Vera Odom. So if maybe Bruce, we can get together with Chuck and coordinate a time that he can help us secure that bench.
Okay. Good deal. All right. Anything else, Lee?
No text yet, but I can say that the events committee has a lot of fun ideas that are going to be coming out soon. So everyone's ready to get out of these cold houses and get out in the streets and start having events and do fun stuff. So y'all be getting information soon, but I'm excited about the fun stuff that's coming. So
yes, our family is very, very much looking forward to this year and having the Yacht Club open and whatnot. So it's a wonderful community if you're involved and you're walking through it and you're driving your golf cart through it and you're saying hi to neighbors, and it's very easy to socially distance and yet not feel that pain of isolation, which I think is really has had a very negative effect on a lot of people's mental states side of things. So I'm very fortunate. We're all very fortunate to live in this neighborhood. Other neighborhoods do not have this aspect. And so one more thing to be grateful for each day.
Mhm.
All right.
That's it. I don't have any more texts.
Okay.
Mr. President, I'd make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Okay. In a second.
Okay. I'll second.
You have 3 seconds.
Pick one.
4. Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Have a good
Aye.
one.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.